Y'all, I done been to a whole lot of churches, but in my 23 years of living, I ain't never heard nobody explain this story the way I'm about to explain it to y'all. Now, I'ma just warn you before we get going. This here is some pretty deep water, so don't be surprised if you feel like it's coming for your neck. But if you think you're ready, let's dive in. So in John chapter 5, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem for a festival, but on his way there, he stopped at this pool called Bethesda. Now, this wasn't no regular swimming pool. This pool is where several disabled people, including the blind, lame, and the paralyzed, would all lie and wait for the water to be stirred so they could be healed. See what I mean? You done already missed something. Notice the quality of people that surrounded this pool. They were all disabled. So in other words, they were only close because they were dealing with the same dysfunction. And while you may be thinking this has nothing to do with you, let me show you why it does. There are 3 different struggles in this story, and you probably relate to all 3. The text tells us that these people are blind, lame, or paralyzed. So let me break this down for you. There is a group of people who are really close, but only because they either blind, meaning they don't have a vision for where they're going, they lame, meaning they haven't been the same since they got hurt, or they paralyzed, meaning in some area of their life they have been living in a state of stagnation without any evidence of progression. See, y'all finna make me cut up, but what's my point here? My point is, this is exactly how some of your friendships are. You're not actually friends with them. You just struggle with the same sin, but you call them family because you see familiar. And just like these disabled people, you've been struggling with it so long, you've now created a community that's content with complacency. Verse 5 says, one who was there had been paralyzed for 38 years. So in other words, time was moving, but he wasn't. So when Jesus saw him lying there, after learning how long he had been in this condition, he asked him a simple question: do you want to get well? Now I know what you may be thinking. Why would he ask this man a question like that? Like, of course he wants to get well, or does he? See, Jesus asked this question for a reason, and it wasn't just to hear this man's projection. It was also to show you a self-reflection. Here's what I mean. Jesus was speaking to a person who had been in the same place for so long, it seemed as though he had become comfortable in his condition. And although God wants what's best for you, he won't force what's best on you. Now watch how the man responds. He says, "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. When I'm trying to get in, someone goes down ahead of me." Now why is that important? Because you got to remember, God is an all-knowing God. So when he asks a question, it's not for him to find the answer. It's for you to discover the problem. And the problem here is, you don't think he did anything wrong because you probably do the same thing yourself. Here's the problem. Jesus asked if he wanted to get well, but heard every reason as to why he hadn't. So he asked a yes or no question, but got an excuse for a response. And instead of accepting his excuse, he submitted a solution. He told him to get up, pick up his mat, and walk. But hold on, something in the water ain't clean, because didn't we just read that the pool was how they got healed? We did. But here, the Bible is attempting to articulate that God can bless you in a way that nobody around you has ever experienced. But just like this man, it's going to require you to stop associating yourself with people who can't see you hurting and refuse to see you healthy.